Every organization has one. The employee everyone thinks is average. They're quiet, they're rarely the loudest voice in the meetings, they don't constantly update their managers, they aren't always first to respond to the group chats. Yet, somehow, projects move because of them. Problems get solved because of them. New employees succeed because of them. Customers stay because of them. Today, we're opening another Blue Cubit case file, the invisible employee. Welcome back to the Blue Cubit Executive Intelligence series. Joining me today is Afnan Salah, our productivity leader. Today's discussion isn't about working harder, it's about recognizing the work that often goes unnoticed but creates tremendous value across our organization. Welcome back, Afnan.
Welcome. Glad to be here today.
Awesome. So today, as usual, I have a short documentary that follows an employee who on paper appears to be underperforming. Their output looks average. Their performance reviews raise questions. But when the organization looks deeper into how work actually happens, a completely different story emerges. As you watch, ask yourself, are we measuring productivity or simply measuring visibility/activity? Let's jump in.
An executive committee is meeting right now to finalize the termination of the person who sits at this desk. The case against them is built on this performance dashboard. The number shows someone in the bottom 10% for individual output, a worker who routinely misses their assigned deadlines. But as word of the firing spreads through the office, an anomaly emerges. The department's highest performers are not relieved. They are panicking. This creates a significant tension. When a dashboard signals a failure, but the team's top producers treat that person as an essential asset, the data is no longer providing a reliable map of the organization. Standard business software excels at tracking tangible, measurable output. It counts tickets closed, tracks emails sent, and logs code committed. Yet it remains blind to the methodology of how those results were actually achieved. These reporting systems have no mechanism to record ad hoc problem solving, quiet collaboration between departments, or the daily crisis prevention that keeps operations running. This creates a psychological trap called visibility bias. Leaders are naturally wired to reward obvious performative action because it is easy to see, while discounting the abstract, invisible effort that maintains organizational health. This executive blind spot manufactures an illusion of efficiency. In practice, it penalizes the very people who hold the internal systems together. To find what the software missed, we have to look past the top-line metrics. We'll isolate just 30 days of this specific employee's workplace data. This chart shows a daily task timeline, cross-referenced against client escalations. Sudden spikes represent operational emergencies. During every escalation, this employee was pulled away to stabilize the situation. Their activity nodes align perfectly with crises, leaving standard timelines blank. Since traditional performance dashboards lack a metric for crisis resolution, these high-stakes interventions do not register. The software records the missing hours as zero productivity. These gaps, recorded as unproductive time by the software, represent the exact moments the organization's most urgent fires were being extinguished. Now, let's zoom out from the individual and examine the entire department's communication network over that same 30-day period. This map reveals hidden pathways of work. We see untracked hours spent in ad hoc troubleshooting. Data pulses from this central node correlate with unblocking junior staff. As they debug stalled projects, surrounding nodes turn green, becoming productive. This is quiet, time-consuming upskilling, yet the highly visible output it creates is entirely credited to the colleagues who receive the help. Standard metrics misattribute the collective success of a team to individual output. They ignore the internal mentoring engine that made those results possible. This unglamorous, untracked collaboration is known as glue work. It is the unseen effort that keeps complex projects from fracturing under pressure. This chart compares the employees' low output against the massive velocity of their team. They act as a force multiplier, sacrificing personal metrics to maintain momentum. Watch team velocity take a sharp dive the moment their presence is removed. Management only sees that final, impressive team velocity. They remain unaware of the human catalyst driving it. In a modern organization, true value is often found in enabling the system, rather than strictly in personal production. Without this deeper visibility, the predictable happens. Executive leadership trusts the flawed dashboard and fires the invisible employee. Almost immediately, the top performers are stripped of their unacknowledged support system. They begin missing their own critical deadlines. Unresolved client crises rapidly escalate. Bypassing a frozen middle management, these operational emergencies land directly on the CEO's desk. Trusting these narrow metrics triggers a series of avoidable failures. By removing the human engine under the assumption it was deadweight, leadership inadvertently dismantles the system they intended to optimize. True executive intelligence requires discarding metrics built on visibility alone. It requires data that accurately maps how people actually collaborate to solve problems. Look at your own performance dashboards today. Who is the invisible employee you are about to lose?
All right, so hearing some new terms coming out like glue work, and I think many leaders would have been a little surprised at the end right there. Afnan, what stuck out most to you?
Well, what stood out to me wasn't that the employee ranked in the bottom 10%. Many organizations still evaluate performance based on what is easiest to measure. Tickets completed, emails answered, hours worked, or maybe deadlines met. But the documentary reveals something much more important. The work that keeps an organization running is often the work no dashboard is designed to capture. Think about the employee who jumps into critical incidents before they become customer complaints. The person who spends an hour helping another team solve a complex issue. Or maybe the experienced colleague who quietly mentors new employees until they become independent. On paper, these activities may look like interruptions, right? But actually, in reality, they are preventing delays, protecting customers, reducing risk, and multiplying the performance of everyone around them. That's not low productivity, that's organizational leadership in action.
Yes, I definitely understand, and that was something that came out to me as well. But what also stood out to me was how quickly the assumptions were made about the employee before anyone looked at the full picture. Why do organizations normally fall into this trap, Afnan? What do you think?
So basically, because visibility is often mistaken for value. Think about it. The people we notice most are usually the ones producing visible activity, sending constant updates, closing a high number of tasks, or appearing busy throughout the day. But being visible doesn't always mean creating the greatest business impact. The documentary introduces that many leaders experience without realizing it, visibility bias. When performance is judged only by what appears on a dashboard, invisible contribution disappear. So the employee resolving urgent customer crisis, the engineer prevented system failures, the manager moved blockers before project stop, the mentor helped 5 junior employees become productive. So none of these efforts may generate impressive personal metrics, right? Yet without them, the entire organization slows down. This is why data without context can become dangerous. A dashboard should support executive decisions, not replace executive judgment.
Mhm. That's very insightful, and I like that you broke down for us the visibility bias, because that is very true that a lot of organizations don't take note of the entire picture. But let's challenge a common assumption. So if someone completes fewer individual tasks than everyone else, does that automatically mean they're less productive? Have you seen that in your space, Afnan?
I think not at all. One of the biggest mistakes organizations make is confusing individual output with organizational impact. Imagine two employees. First completes 25 tasks today, and the second completes only 12. So at first glance, the answer seems obvious, right? But what if those 12 tasks included resolving a major client escalation, mentoring two new employees, helping another department remove a critical blocker, and preventing a production outage? Who created more value here? Definitely productivity isn't just about how much work you finish. It's about how much better your work makes the organization perform. This is where the documentary introduces the idea of glue work. Basically, glue work is the invisible effort that connects teams, removes friction, shares knowledge, and keeps projects moving forward. It's rarely recognized because it doesn't belong to one project or one department, right? But it's often the reason projects succeed in the first place. The documentary also describes these individuals as force multipliers. They don't simply complete their own work, they increase the productivity of everyone around them. And that is one of the highest value contributions any employee can make.
Yes, I definitely agree there. And that glue work stuck out to me so much so that I think what we can name here is the invisible catalyst, which is without that hidden connective person, it's highly visible output of the surrounding nodes tend to collapse. So put it into perspective here. Without that person in the background doing that glue work, something may become delayed. Projects may tend to be lost, customers lost, revenue lost. So these are pretty much what you would call the foreseers of what can happen. So they see what this can do if it is that we don't fix it from now. So they are more proactive in their approach. That's why when you see someone completing fewer tasks, sometimes, just sometimes, it may actually be someone who is more productive depending on what they're doing and what value they're adding as well.
Yeah, exactly. I fully agree with that. The real question for leaders isn't who completed the most work. It's whose work enabled the entire team to perform better. Because, organizations don't grow through individual performance alone. They grow through collaboration, trust, shared knowledge, and people who remove obstacles before they become business problems. So when leaders recognize only visible output, they risk losing the very people holding the organizations together. And as the documentary showed, once those people leave, the impact becomes painfully visible. Deadlines slip, clients escalation creates, top performers lose support, and overall team performance declines. By then, it's already too late.
Yeah, I totally agree there. So if we were to imagine a little bit here, you were reviewing performance across your organization, and you wanted to know how do you make sure you recognize the people who are creating value behind the scenes. So that's what we want to be able to see. How do we recognize that? What do we use as benchmarkers for it?
Oh, good question. I believe every leader should ask 4 questions before making any performance decision here. First, who solves the problems that never become major issues? Second, who do employees consistently turn to when they are stuck. Third, whose absence would slow down multiple teams even if their individual metrics appear average. And finally, are we rewarding visible activity or meaningful business impact? Now think about it. The most valuable contributors are not always the loudest voices or the busiest people. They are often the ones creating stability, uh, accelerating collaboration, maybe protecting customer relationships, and enabling others to succeed. That's why modern workforce intelligence must go beyond measuring activity. It should help leaders understand collaboration's pattern, knowledge sharing, workload distribution, and the real drivers of organizational performance. Because, when you can see how value actually flows through your organization, you make better decisions, not just about productivity, but about talent, leadership, and long-term business success.
So what I'm hearing, which is a very important shift in the conversation, is that leaders shouldn't just ask who's busy, but focus more on who's making great or the greatest impact. And that's very good. So, because I want to leave you all with this question, I'm not going to ask you to put an answer into the comment section, but if you notice that this is happening in your organization, definitely go ahead and let us know. And you can type in the comment section to say connector, because that's what we're looking for. So are you rewarding actual value or just visibility? So think about that. This is what I want you to think about throughout the rest of this podcast and the week ahead. And go ahead and put connector into the comment section so we can go ahead and connect with you and talk a little bit about how we can assist with those persons in your organization that may be the invisible employee, and how we can benefit by maximizing this effort. Or as Afnan mentioned, they're the catalyst. They're the person that will duplicate the work or enforce that work as they continue to proceed. But before we close out, Afnan, is there one recommendation that you would give every leader that is listening out there today?
Well, my recommendation is simple. Just don't evaluate people only by what your dashboard can see. Evaluate them by the value they create across the organization. Before making decisions about performance, take time to understand how work actually happens. Look beyond completing tasks, observe collaboration, identify who resolves the crisis, who mentors others, who removes blockers, and who the one who enables teams to move faster. Because the most important employee in your organization may not be the one with the highest numbers. It may be the one quietly making everyone else's numbers possible. The best leaders don't just measure productivity, they understand how productivity is created. And when they do, they build organizations that are not only more productive, but more resilient, more collaborative, and far more successful.
Thank you so much. So 3 words that stuck out to me throughout today's podcast was definitely visibility bias. We took a look at the invisible catalyst, and of course, glue work. And I want those 3 words to also resonate a little bit with you for today's conversation, reminded us of what productivity actually means. It's not simply about measuring activity, it's about understanding the contribution, the value added work that every employee brings to the table, and ensuring that this system is benefiting or proactively helping the organization to reach their goals. Because the most successful organization recognize hidden value, remove unnecessary barriers, and create environments where every employee has the opportunity to make meaningful impact. Afnan, once again, I thank you for joining me again and for sharing your insights. They were truly insightful, wonderful information here for our leaders to take away. And I thank you, listeners at home, for joining us today. Don't forget to comment, to like, and share this video, and to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. But next week, I do have a treat for you. We're moving a little bit away from productivity. We're going to jump into cybersecurity. Yes, I know that's on everybody's mind. Everybody's asking, yes, we're productive, or we're getting to a space that we're productive, but what about for security? Well, we're going to jump into the next chapter of our executive intelligence series with the Blue Cubit case file number 5, the attack that started last Thursday. If some of you may know what this may cover, you can go ahead and say it in the chat, but we're going to talk a little bit about things that organizations don't realize and when they're compromised. So you're open to our treat to come next week. So until next time, thank you so much for joining us at the Blue Cubit Executive Intelligence Series, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye.